Hey, I'm ready to get started with some more of our PAC-T tests. That stands for, by the way, precision, accuracy, consistency, and terminal performance. Precision, accuracy, and consistency, the first three parts of the test, are shot from the bench at the bullseye targets. I'll be measuring the extreme spread of the group, 5-shot group at 15 yards. Accuracy, I'll be scoring on that bullseye target. And the consistency comes from the lab radar. I'm going to check how consistent these rounds are in muzzle velocity. These are factory rounds, in fact, that I'm using today. And I'll be shooting, first of all, the Barnes TAC XP bullets. These are 115 grain bullets. And then I'm going to be jumping up to the 124 grain bullet. I think that's going to be a much better personal defense type of bullet and based on past experience. But this one is the Federal HST. I've never shot the Federal HST. I'm kind of excited on how that is going to do. And also, by the way, I should note that I've had a lot of great success with Barnes bullets, so I have high hope for that one as well. Then I'm going to shift things over, and I'm going to be putting one round each into some clear ballistic gelatin. I'll be shooting that from 7 yards. We'll be looking at how that bullet performs in the ballistic gelatin. Let's go ahead and get started. First up, Barnes Vortex. This is their 115 grain TAC XP. I'll be shooting this, by the way, with my H&K VP9. Again, this is at 15 yards. Let's go ahead and arm the lab radar. I'll be shooting at the bullseye on the left. In some ways there's some advantages to it. In other ways you really can't get a great grip on the pistol like you can when you're shooting offhand. By the way, before I start firing this, those Barnes stepped it out at 1126 feet per second. Excellent, really. Standard deviation of only 2.4 feet per second. So that is highly consistent. That's really, really good. Let's go ahead and we're going to jump into the next series, as we call it here in the lab radar. Going to the bullseye on the right. One didn't track. We got 4 of the 5, which is what I expected. We've got 1,233 feet per second, 6.9 standard deviation. This is another excellent load. Anytime we get down to single digits, that's a very consistent load. Now we're ready to switch over to the ballistic gelatin, put 1 round each into those at 7 yards. This is the 115 grain Barnes. All right, so this is the gel block from the 115 grain Barnes bullets, and you can see that, well, we fired from this direction. You can see that path or channel. There is the bullet right there, ending up at 13¼ inches. This is gel block number 2, and this is the Federal HST 124 grain bullet. This one penetrated less than the Barnes. However, that's not necessarily a bad thing. We want to get a sufficient amount of penetration. I suspect this is going to do a nice job. Might be right there in that sweet spot when we score this. But we got about 10 3/4 inches of penetration on that bullet, and it kind of skeetered very close to the top. I can almost feel it right there. We'll go ahead and extract this bullet like the other, weigh it, measure it for expansion, and evaluate it. So stick around for all that. Let's take just a couple minutes to kind of digest all of these results. I started by shooting the Barnes 115 grain bullets at this bullseye target. That is the Barnes 115 grain TAC XP bullet right here. And precision, we ended up with 1.95 inch 5-shot group at 15 yards off the bench. Now I should note that I recently got that new VP9 pistol, and I've been shooting it offhand with a bunch of different factory loads, and principally the CCI Blazer Brass 115 grain and 124 grain full metal jacket bullets. That's an impressive pistol. And offhand at 7 and 10 yards, I can put these little groups, just tiny little groups. It does beautiful. But I chose to shoot this off the bench because all of our previous PAC-T tests were shot off the bench with that exact same little rest, the pistol rest. So I wanted to continue that just so we have good continuity and can compare different tests to different tests, even though some of those 9mm tests were shot with the Beretta, some with the Sig Sauer P320, and now these are shot with the VP9. But anyway, we got, not a bad group at 15 yards, scored 45 points. That's our accuracy score with 0 in the X. When we look at terminal performance, this bullet did all right. It's an interesting bullet. These Barnes are always very interesting. It's a solid copper bullet, and it ended up with a score of 412.5 points. We had a penetration of 13 1/4 inches, 13.25 inches. It retained 100% of its weight. The retained length was 0.509, about 1/2 inch, and it expanded nearly twice its original size, 197%. Those Barnes bullets are kind of known for a really nice double expansion type of performance. One thing I think is overlooked a lot in terminal performance is the retained length, that shank that we're seeing, if you want to call it that. And it's important to really look at, because it is the length of that shank that really influences how straight that bullet is going to travel inside the target. Some bullets will mushroom out tremendously and become almost as flat as a coin. And what those bullets can tend to do is to start flopping over, tumbling upon itself inside the medium. Let's spend a couple minutes now talking about the second bullet we shot, another one of these 124 grain bullets, the Federal HST. First time I ever shot the HST bullets from Federal. This is a +P bullet, so we got a little bit better velocity, or not necessarily better, I guess, but faster, more velocity out of these, and they performed pretty darn well. Let's take a look at the Bullseye. This is the Federal HST Bullseye. Shot actually a little bit lower than what we had with the Barnes 115 grain bullets. There's that 1,233 average muzzle velocity. We got a score of 38, again with 0 in the X. Terminal performance, this bullet did a fantastic job. 437.5 points, 10.7 inch penetration. That's right there in that sweet spot. Not over penetrating, kind of getting as deep as it really should, and stopping right there, expending all of its energy within that less than 11 inches. 100% weight retention again, but quite a bit less retained length. expansion of 183%. So if we look at that bullet that was retrieved from the ballistic gelatin, we see that it's nowhere close to as long of a shank as we saw with the Barnes. Maybe that's a little bit worrisome, but maybe not. Nonetheless, it penetrated very nicely, expanded very nicely, and ended up with a really, really good score. I don't know that we've had a 9mm that scored this well. I know those Sig Sauer Elite V crowns are darn hard to beat, and it probably did. It might have beat this one, but very hard to beat those Sig Sauer V crowns. We did a video not too long ago where the Sig Sauer became the best of the best. We put it up against two other very, very good bullets, and the Sig Sauer came out on top, or the Sierra V crown. Hey, thanks for watching this video, another one of our PAC-T test videos. If you've got some questions, feel free to post those in the comments below. I'll try to answer those as promptly as I can. And thanks once again for watching.